All right, here is the deck that I use for the showcase qualifier. Cards that I think really stood out to me was Arena of Glory. I wasn't sure how good it would be, but we did have Hasten Raptors and Channelers, and even Questing Druids. They overperformed. Some of the new things for Modern Horizons 3 is obviously Galvanic Discharge and Unstable Amulet. So good for card draw and damage output to go along with the Amped Raptors. Such a good combo. One thing that I'm interested about is the Underworld Breaches and the Question Druids. Every time I saw Question Druid, it was really good. Breach was mostly good. There were times I was like, I'd rather this be a Question Druid. With the Mutagenic Growths were great, especially game one. They're just get there. My sideboard, I went really heavy against some of my worst matchups. So the four Harsh Mentors and the Floor Blood Moons, definitely for the boogeyman of the format. Nadu, hopefully hashtag ban Nadu happens soon. We're all waiting for it so we can actually have a better format. Personally, I hope they actually ban the Ring and Grief in Modern too, because I think that would open up the diversity in the format for sure. Um, but I also have, Graveyard Hate for Atraxa, which we end up hitting in the first round. So it was a good meta call by me to have those ready to rock and roll. But like and comment what you like about the deck or what you don't like, and if you have any questions about why I ran on any of the decisions. And hope you like the rest of the tournament, and thanks for watching. All right, round one, we got the play. We had four land, a little rough, but we'll put a land out. He puts a swamp, thought seizes us, take out the questing druid. End of turn, we go get commercial district. See ya. DRC, so we leave it on top. We play Arena of Glory, end of turn, let him go. He plays a dig land. End of his turn, we throw our Questing Druid out. We do hit a Slick Shot and a Mutagenic Growth. So we play Slick Shot, then play the Mutagenic Growth on the Slick Shot. No trigger, so he takes the damage. He does shock in a Hollowed Fountain and plays Tainted Indulgence. It is at this point I know we're playing Atraxa. So then he puts his Ephemerate in the graveyard. He does Prismatic Ending my Slick Shot, but this is where Arena Glory comes into effect. Questing Druid into Channeler, both hasty. We get a Lava Dart twice and Mutagenic Growth, putting both a Swift Spear and a Slick Shot and a Mountain in the graveyard. He's down to one. He then concedes. I came pretty prepped against Atraxa. It's one of our worst matchups, so I wanted to go 4 Surgical Extractions, 2 Tormod's Crypts, taking out 2 Discharges, 3 Mutagenics, and also 1 Underworld Breach. Right there gives us a full 6, so that's where we started with game 2. I do end up keeping a 4-land hand, a little risky, but I did have Surgical Extraction. We top deck a Discharge, so we put a Mountain out, and then we play Channeler. End of turn, he does fetch for a Scryland, and he does end up putting Atraxa in the graveyard. On his turn, he does play a land, and then he passed the turn. Wasn't sure if he had Goro's Vengeance in hand or if he was going to go Tainted Indulgence. I end up drawing Amulet, which is a pretty good draw, so I play Arena of Glory into our Swift Spear while holding up Galvanic Discharge and Surgical Extraction. We do end up moving to combat here, swinging with both Channeler and Swift Spear. No responses from the opponent, so they just take the damage, and then we just pass the turn. And in my turn, they do fetch into another Scryland. They do hit a Gristlebrand. On their turn, they do evoke a Grief. At this point, I know the only way for me to survive is to Surgical Extract out their Atraxa or Gristlebrand. Even though they can Goro's Vengeance at instant speed, it's the only chance I really have to win this game. And I put a Swift Spear in the graveyard with Channeler's ability, thinking that if he gets the Atraxa out or the Gristlebrand, it's nearly useless. He doesn't have a trigger for it, so we do end up taking all 3 Atraxas out of his deck. Seeing as he doesn't have an Ephemerate, I'm not too worried about getting obviously double griefed or anything, but he does end up taking my Amulet here. Then plays down his Godless Shrine, pays the life, and then Wrath of the Skies me to get rid of both my creatures. On my turn, I top deck Dart, not the best to draw, so I Commercial District out just to see what I can get. I end up putting a land into the graveyard and then letting him go. Now, we know 2 of his cards in hand, so since he plays a land, we know Celestial Purge and Grief are in hand, so then he ends up putting the land down and then ending his turn. I do end up drawing Slick Shot here, which is an amazing draw. Knowing that he's got the Celestial Purge, though, I do end up making it go to Exile, and then I end my turn. At the end, though, he does fetch and then go for another Scry land. He does end up keeping this card on top. So then we go to his turn. He doesn't play a land. He doesn't play his Grief, and he just simply ends his turn. So we just know he has got 1 random card in hand. Now, at the end of his turn, I do dig and get Stomping Ground. Don't shock to put it in, so then we go to my turn, and we top deck an Amped Raptor. Off Amped Raptor, we do hit a Lightning Bolt, so then we play our Slick Shot. We then move to combat, knowing that he's got the Purge in hand, and he does end up purging our Slick Shot Show-Off. He does end up taking 2, and end of turn, he Tainted Indulgences, discarding Grief. For his turn, he just lays a land and then ends the turn. I end up top decking Amulet here, and remember my Arena Glory is still tapped, so we go in with the Amped Raptor. So the opponent fetches. I'm assuming there comes a Solitude, which there is, and then they obviously target the Raptor. So then we go play the Amulet. We want to see what we get off of this, which we end up getting a second Amulet. So now it's time to Galvanic Discharge on the Solitude. Then I pass the turn back. He then Prismatic Endings my Amulet. We play Amulet, get a great draw in Questing Druid. We activate Amulet to see a mountain, so we definitely play that mountain out. We then pass the turn. On his turn, he Goryo's Vengeance, so in response, I Questing Druid. Fortunately, do not hit a Surgical Extraction, so I have to let the Gristlebrand get in. He swings. Goes up to 14, does draw 7. Plays an Archaeologist, unfortunately finds an Ephemerate off of this Archaeologist. Super nasty hit. He does end the turn with a Hollowed Fountain, so then I top deck a Surgical Extraction. That hurt a lot. So my only thought here is now I have to be able to kill him this turn, or else it's just going to let it go with Gristlebrand. So I Seek the Beast on one of the Questing Druids that I hit, knocking him down to 6. Now we do want to see what we're going to hit off of this Amulet as well, so we play that. We get a land. Now we need to protect against Gristlebrand being Solituded, so we play the Slick Shot, and followed by the Lightning Bolt, and then the Lava Dart, and we still have Surgical as backup for an additional damage. And the Archaeologist isn't allowed to block the Slick Shot since it doesn't have flying, so we're able to get over right here. So we start 1-0. We get a bad 7, so we have to mulligan. We do go down to a 3-land hand, which is pretty good, especially with Arena of Glory. We kick back one of the fetch lands. They start with Colony Garden here, so I'm pretty sure they're on Nadu, the bane of my existence right now. We get a pretty good top deck in Bauble. I do want to kind of get some damage in with the Slick Shot, but I also need to see what my next card is, whether I want to dig before or after. I decide on a ladder, so then I go and dig out a Stomping Ground since life doesn't really matter as much in this matchup. And then we're just going to hold up the Bolt. I end up top decking a land with the Labobble anyways, and then he plays Springleaf Drum. I end up killing the plant token before the Springleaf Drum is able to hit the battlefield, and he follows it up with a Halfling. So then I top deck a Channeler. I end up playing Raptor, which gets into Slick Shot, which is a pretty good hit. So I swing in and deal him a damage. He then plays the Beast of Modern, Nadu, into Shuko, and I'm just going to speed up all his triggers here. He ends up not being able to go off on this first turn, which is really helpful, and gives me one more shot. This ends up being a pretty good turn for me. It doesn't get me there, but I feel as though it was pretty powerful, especially with Arena of Glory, able to put one Amped Raptor in as well as Channeler. Amped Raptor comes in and hits a Mutagenic Growth, which I immediately throw on the Slick Shot. I then play a Bauble to increase as much damage as I'm going to do. Unfortunately, he evokes out an Endurance, which obviously lowers my Channeler. Turn back to him. I'm just going to fast times it by 8 here. He has his combo, and he just goes off. Now we're on to sideboarding. It's pretty easy sideboard. 4 Harsh Mentors, 4 Blood Moon, especially on the play. We're taking out both Questing Druids, all 3 Amulets, and 3 Mutagenic Growths. Now we start out with a pretty good 7. We go to Swift Spear, let him go into a dig land. Back to us with the Harsh Mentor. Just get it out now. He actually messes up and doesn't tap his dig land in time and actually takes extra damage here. And gets a hedge maze, and then he does play Rumble, gets Sylvan Safekeeper, moves back to my turn. I end up top decking a Dart here, which is a pretty good card. We end up playing the Slick Shot into the Dart, targeting his Eldrazi spawn, and then we just swing away. And for his turn, he ends up just putting Nadu down, so it's actually a pretty easy turn for us. We end up top decking a second Galvanic Discharge with Lightning Bolt, and both of them, it's an easy kill. So now on to game 3. I'm on the draw. He starts out with the Grazer. I go Swift Spear into double Bobble. I could have held it out for the Slick Show, but the Grazer can just block it next turn, so we just swung in for 3 right here. Opponent then puts a Nantuko on his Grazer, plays a fetch land, and then passes the turn. Back on my turn, I draw another Bobble, so I shock in the Stomping Ground, go straight for the Harsh Mentor. He does think ahead and dig first for his Hedge Maze, and then I pass the turn. He does assemble Nadu and Shuko here on his turn, so I've sped it up just for so you can see what happens. I do end up knocking him down to 8, and he has no answer for my Harsh Mentor at this point. So I play my Surveil land on my turn. See an Amulet. It's a little too slow for us, so we play the Bobble, hoping to hit like another Bolt or something like that. Unfortunately, we end up seeing a Blood Moon on the top of our deck, so the only option we have here is to play Swift Spear, play the Bolt, and then just hope we can get him down to 3. And then on his turn, he plays another Nantuko to attach to a Grazer, and unfortunately he sees a Chord of Calling, which allows him to go get the Storm Drake and trade places with my Harsh Mentor. After trading places with my Harsh Mentor, he just is able to Nadu me out, so I'm just going to speed up the rest of the thing here at 20 times speed, just to show you exactly what happens. But this leads us on to match number 3. So we keep a pretty greedy hand here, 1 lander, but we have a Bobble and our Surveil land. So then we play the Bobble, we let him go. On their turn, they play a Windswept Heath and pass the turn back to me. Then hashtag never punish. We do end up getting our second land with another Amulet. So we end up playing a Swift Spear, not sure knowing what we're playing against as of yet. We do end the turn with a Channeler. We plays Wallarroot, so then that's when we know we're playing our favorite friend Nadu. Again, at this point we play Amulet. Amulet hope to hit another land. We unfortunately don't. We hit their second Breach, which seemed really rough in this spot. But we do bust him with an attack. I then pass turn to him, which he plays a fetch land, and then he uses a counter from Wallarroots to put in a Divided Halfling, holding up something, whether that be Chord of Calling or Endurance. At this point, I'm looking at what I have in my hand. The best option here is definitely to go for Amped Raptor. Unfortunately, all I hit is a Bolt, which I think about hitting on the Delighted Halfling, but I second guess myself and I say let's just go for it right now. We have a lot of damage on the board, depending whether he's Chord of Calling or whether he's going to Endurance. I also see a land here with the Dragon Rage Channeler, so I know I want to keep that on top. He unfortunately does Chord here for an Endurance. With that Endurance, though, he actually ends up blocking my Swift Spear as opposed to my Channeler. I do think about hitting the Endurance to see if I could kill it, but I feel as though we're just so low on damage with the Bolt in hand. I just really want to deal him as much damage as possible coming this next turn. My opponent here, unfortunately, does assemble Nadu with Shuko. Is what it is. He definitely gets game 1. Let me know what your thoughts are down below on Nadu itself. Should it be banned? Should it not be? Is it fun to play against, or is it fun to play in the first place? Let me know. This guy also ended up being in first place overall in the tournament, by the way. Same sideboard plan, out come 3 Mutagenics, both Questing Druids, 1 Amulet, and 2 Underworld Breaches for all 4 Blood Moons and all 4 Harsh Mentors. At the start of game 2, unfortunately, I do have to mulligan, so I do go down to 6. But I can't complain with the 6. With the Swift Spear and 3 land, we can throw a land back, start with the Mountain, into Swift Spear, into Bobble. Swing for 2 on turn 1 with having answers to both a Mana Dork, Nantuko, We do get a Harsh Mentor off of the Bauble, probably our best draw. He plays a 1-Swift Heat for his turn. We even get a Blood Moon here, so we're looking pretty good. We get the Harsh Mentor out. He forgets his whole dig before the Harsh Mentor, so it really helps us out here as well. Going in for Lush Portigo. Encore is pretty good too. He must have been really hurting for lands here. He ends up doing an Antuco, and we have the Lava Dart, so I have a choice here. I could have just Blood Moon and kept him out of the game. I really thought about bolting there to knock him down to even less life. It would have been down to 6 with the Harsh Mentor, but I decided against it just to have some extra kill against something that I need on the field. Seeing the dig land really helps, especially for us too. So right here, I just think it's best just to Blood Moon, lock him out of everything. Harsh Mentor is going to really hurt him with that. Anyways. With the Endurance, it's pretty easy. We can just kill the Endurance with the Bolt and then the Lava Dart in the graveyard, which basically gives us the win here. Down to 1, but he ends up looking at his hand and conceding. On to game 3. I did a slight sideboard change here. Since I'm on the draw, I didn't think Blood Moons would be quite as effective, so I took them out and added in our Questy Druids. So I end up going down to 6 here. This is too much burn in my opening hand. I end up keeping this hand as 2 lands. Looking back, I probably should have kept the Channeler and dropped the Swift Spear, but I end up at the time dumping Channeler and going for the Swift Spear, just trying to get there as quick as possible. Obviously, I needed to try to get to Harsh Mentor, which would have been better, but we were able to get some damage in here on our first go round. Still no Harsh Mentor off of the Bauble. Once he puts his Burrington down, it's really hard for us to get through. Even though we play Amped Raptor, we get to a second Swift Spear and we can hit him for 1 damage. But then this is where he really cooks us. When he sets this thing down, he can just, every damage he does to it, he can just forward right over to the Burrington, so I can't even kill it. With burn spells or nothing. I actually misplay here because I didn't even realize that he could do that. It's the first time I've actually played against Nadu, in which he had both of those on the field. So it's pretty nasty when it comes down to that. And so then all he really needs from here is Nadu. So I'm just going to speed it up from here and show you that he plays Nadu next turn and wins the match. Now we got round 4 against Jund Saga. We get a pretty good hand for our 7, which is pretty nice, but we did lose the dice roll, unfortunately. Opponent plays a Mire here. I'm obviously not sure at this point what I'm playing against, but I do have to be weary of an Orcish Bowmaster. So with that, I will play the Channeler into Bauble, just trying to get it out now. Hopefully I can get a Mutagenic Growth or something like that. Unfortunately, he does dig and goes into an Unholy Heat and kills the Channeler before I can do anything. If I had a Mutagenic Growth, that would have been really nice to keep him up there. We do look at the top. Mishra's research desk. Haven't seen that card in a minute, probably since Modern Horizons 3's dropped. Haven't seen anybody use that card yet. At this point, I know it's Jund just due to the Overgrown Tomb to go along with the Mountain. And then he does Thoughtseize me here. He does take the Swift Spear, which makes me think he's out of creature kill. So on my turn, I actually end up drawing a Slick Show, which is a pretty damn good draw, especially if he's out of creature kill. I think it's a really good move. So we put him out on the field. Might have been better to exile him first and not get that 1 damage, but I think we did the right thing. We see a Boseiju and a Stomping Ground exiled from the research desk, so I'm really not that scared. Hoping he actually shocks in the Stomping Ground, but he does play Boseiju into Nethergoyf and into the Boots. So he's got a pretty good hand coming out next turn. The only thing I'm really worried about is if he was to grab a Shadow Spear. So right here, I'm seeing 2 bolts. We could try to kill him with Underworld Breach. I had a few different options. I ended up going with the Amp Raptor, hitting a Lava Dart, which was a huge hit. So I smack him with the Lava Dart, able to go dig with the Arid Mesa for the Lightning Bolt. And even sacking the Lava Dart and swinging with the Slick Shot, he ends up going down to 1 life. So the only thing I'd be really worried about is Shadow Spear. He ends up drawing a card and then conceding. Our sideboard against Jund is fairly limited, but I do like the Tormod's Crypts for the Nethergoyfs. So my thoughts were I'm going to take out 1 Mutagenic Growth, 1 Underworld Breach, because I'm a little afraid of Endurance as well. This ends up being a really close game against Jund. Had a lack of threats with this opening hand with 4 land. I thought about it for a minute, so I mulliganed it. It just wasn't enough. I needed some more threats to go against it. Lava Dart's a tough choice there, but I do think Lava Dart's the correct decision, just because we just don't know what he's going to have turn 1. We do end up leading off with Channeler into Bobble. Still got to be worried about that Orcish Bowmasters, but with that Bolt in hand, that's going to be definitely nice to help combat that. As well as having the Galvanic Discharge in hand too. He does end up killing the Channeler here at the end of my turn with another Unholy Heat. I do see a Thoughtseize, which does make the Bobble draw a little bit worse for sure. He ends up playing a Wrenn 6 here though. And getting his dig land back to his hand, or fetch land. I call them dig lands. So if you haven't got on when it comes to that. I did draw a second mountain with not very much to back it up. I'm just going to exile the Slick Show to try to get a really good hit if he taps out. It's a big if against Jund when they know you have a Slick Show, or Slick Shot, exiled. I thought seizing here is an interesting decision because you're more worried about the Amulet or you're more worried about the Bolt. He does end up choosing Amulet, even though leaving the Bolt in my hand is pretty scary too. I end up decking another Amulet, which was actually a really good draw. Now I could have played it into the Slick Show, but I decided not to because it definitely would have done a little bit more damage. I think he was trying to Bowmaster me there. He thought I might be drawing a card with the Amulet. I bet he wasn't sure. But he actually Besages my Amulet at the end of turn, and intentionally I go and get a regular Mountain, smack him for the life, deal the extra damage, and then it allows me to go get Commercial District, and just to kind of set up my next draw phase, which is a Swift Spear, which makes me think I could win next turn, having the Slick Show exiled as well as the Bolt, Swift Spear, and Galvanic Discharge. We were looking pretty good. There was 2 cards in his graveyard, but he did have a dig land, which would have made it 3, so now it's a 3/4, so my Discharge will not kill that, which is important. I wanted to get the Swift Spear out first, so just in case he had the Shieldred's Edict to make me sacrifice a non-token creature. That was what I was mostly scared about at that moment. I needed him to show me that he had the kill, because I think this would have been one of my only ways to finally finish him. I ended up Galvanic Discharging the Wrenn 6 because I obviously can't let him get to 7 and finish his ultimate. He does end up having the push, though, for my Slick Show, unfortunately. At this point, my opponent tends to level off, which is what Jen does, with all their value cards, unfortunately. He pops my Swift Spear with one of the Wrenn 6, pops it with the second one, able to kill me, hit me for a good chunk here. Drops a Tarmogoyf. From this spot, he's got, 9 power left on the board. I top deck a dig land. There's just not much I could draw into next turn. The only thing I could really think of was an Amulet into my last Bolt or Underworld Breach, depending. But we end up having no such success. So on to game 3. Now we're on to game three. It was the grindiest match I've had in a minute, or game, should I say. I went a little risky here, having a mutagenic growth, bauble, and 4 lands with my Swift Spear. But I don't know. For some reason, I had a feeling that this would just get the job done. He does end up playing a dig land and not actually going to kill my Swift Spear, which was nice. I top deck another land, which was pretty rough. But hitting the amulet was a damn good hit. Amulets are so good in this matchup. I wish there was a better way for me to get more energy. I think that would be the only way for me to really think about beefing up when it comes to amulet. And here it's a little rough because he's able to fatal push my Swift Spear, so I can't save it with the mutagenic growth. That's one thing about having mutagenic growth in your main board, is that it's a little rough against anybody that runs black. Pick your poison was a little rough, but that means I can save my Underworld Breach for later. Top decking the Dragon Age Tenor was actually a pretty good draw, especially having that Underworld Breach in the sideboard. Or not the sideboard, exiled, should I say. He ends up digging even harder for a Ren and 6 right here, which actually really surprised me. The nice thing is he tries to ping my DRC, and I'm able to save it with the mutagenic growth. Throw the other land in the graveyard, which I did not see. We run 17 lands in here, by the way, and we are just so much land at this point. We had an important decision to make here. We can either put Amulet on the field and then bobble out and draw a bunch of cards and deal some damage and swing with Channeler that way, or I could just bolt him. I end up going with the bolt direction just because I want to make sure I can get all the damage in that I can. Not sure it was the correct decision, but we ended up winning this match, so I can't say it was the worst decision when it comes down to that. Because I could have mutagenic growth out of the graveyard too, but at this point I'm not sure I'm going to have all the cards I need out of the graveyard. That bobble hit was really lucky with the land, because now I can put the bobble in the graveyard, Underworld Breach, and keep it a 3/3 against my opponent. Top decking the Amp Raptor, him being at 3 life, it's where we wanted to be. He does go get Shadow Spear, which is what I didn't want to see at all. For sure, because that was his way to climb back out of this. He then plays his Pick Your Poison, which is surprisingly good against me. First time I'd seen it in sideboards, and actually since Modern Horizons 3 came out. He then plays out a monkey with an Urza Saga and attaches the Shadow Spear to that monkey. We end up getting a mutagenic growth with our top deck, which is not the best spot we want to be in, but it lets us save us from the Ren and 6, which is nice. I see Arena of Glory, which makes me think of Jegantha. Might be nice to pull that out, but I think at that point we're not looking too good anyways. So we need to top deck like a Bolt or something, and hitting another land was just killer right there, because we could have had Jegantha in hand. Luckily, I do have green to protect my Amped Raptor, and he didn't have any other kill to stop it. That first strike on Amped Raptor is so good. Not sure if he meant to do this or if it was a mistake, but he did play Engineered Explosives on 0. We top deck a great top deck in Questing Druid with 2 really good hits in Galvanic Discharge and Lava Dart. Since we have enough land here, the goal is we're going to play Questing Druid into the Galvanic Discharge to kill out the monkey. Wait for him to block, because he's got to make a construct, because if he doesn't make construct, he dies. And that could have been why he made the Engineer Explosives on 0, is to make that construct a 3/3. But with the first strike, and I'm able to Lava Dart and grow my Questing Druid, we're looking pretty good at that. He ends up pulling a fast one on me on his turn, something I wasn't prepped for. He ended up playing Vexing Bauble from his sideboard, or it was in his main board and I hadn't seen it. But that really stops me from Lava Darting, which was a really good play on his part. Then getting back the Urza Saga with Ren and 6, we've seen this game played out, and it's not good if his engine keeps going like this. He ends up playing a Haywire Might and a Rajavan and attaching his Shadow Spear to the Rajavan. I need a really good top deck in order to stay in this game for sure before he can start to overwhelm me. And we get that with the other Questing Druid. Such a clutch draw right there. Hitting Lava Dart and Unstable Amulet. That's the game right there. We don't even need Lava Dart to actually hit. We end up playing that just to get the extra damage in as a just in case. Oh shit, he had 2 cards in hand. I think he was dead, and he knew he was dead. But Unstable Amulet, getting it done. So we're 2-2. Round 4, Nadu again. Do a comment down below. See if you think Nadu should be banned. We got the draw, unfortunately. He starts out really good with an Arboreal Grazer. We got a pretty decent hand with only 1 spell, though. Not the best with just a Swift Spear. He goes turn 2 Shuko into a 3rd land on the Arboreal Grazer. I'm able to play another Swift Spear onto Baubles, hoping that we can draw him out onto a block here with the Grazer, so I'm hoping he has 1 less creature. But he ends up faking me out and not blocking. I say we need to get as much damage in as we can at this point, so I do end up throwing the Lava Dart at him, just trying to get some damage down, hopefully to kind of prevent him from digging. It unfortunately doesn't do too much. He ends up drawing and going straight into Nadu, and then you know the rest. The best obvious deck in Modern right now, doing the best deck things. We got that same plan, 4 Blood Moons, 4 Harsh Mentors, and here we go for game 2. So with game 2, we keep a pretty risky hand here. 1 Commercial District, 1 Bauble, hoping to get that land in the top 2 cards. It's not the first card, that's for sure. We Bauble out, let him go to his turn, and we hit a Blood Moon. Not what we wanted to see there. Luckily, he doesn't do too much, and we do not hit our land, so hashtag punished. Even though my favorite thing is hashtag never punish for land. I'll take it. He does dismember it. Luckily, right here, we get saved with the land. Probably saves us the entire match, us drawing that land right there into Harsh Mentor. He does hit Hedge Maze at the end of his turn into our good old pal Nadu. We hit another land. I think it's best just to Blood Moon out here. Make him have to beat me the old-fashioned way. And this makes Cord a lot worse for him. He can start trying to attack me, but that's not going to do a ton. We need to start getting damage in, so I think the Unstable Ambulance is definitely our best bet. Unfortunately, we do hit a land, but it lets us hit our second Amulet. And even though our second Lava Dart may not be able to do a ton of damage because it's going to get countered with the Bauble, having both Amulets still gives it 2 damage, which is still fairly nice. Having the 2 actual Baubles in my hand is pretty rough, but I wanted to kill 1 Nadu because I know he can't play another Nadu. That was kind of my thinking here. Luckily, I am able to kill it. He can't rush anything in because he's got nothing but mountains over there. I 2-put Jegantha in my hand. I'm holding up the Baubles, hoping he was going to sacrifice his Bauble. He plays into what I say, another mountain. Coming to our turn, we can do Galvanic Discharge, or we can actually just get the Elk out there. I thought getting the Elk out there, just start getting damage down. It was a little bit of a risk because if he drew Boseiju, he could still play with the Arbor Elf. But he does concede. So we got game 2. So game 3 had me a little nervous, but luckily we have a pretty decent hand, especially for killing all this stuff right here. And the Blood Moon. So I thought it was a keeper. I knew it was a little slow because it didn't have any creatures. But what the Blood Moon allows me to do is now to lock him out. Shuko in the half lane, I'm not too worried about that, but I definitely want to kill the halfling. Just don't give him a chance to have any sort of mana or anything like that. The option here was to either play Amulet or hold up bolts. I end up actually holding up both my kill spells just in case, which I do think was the right decision. And my opponent does get mana screwed right here, which right here I have a choice because if he has a Boseiju in hand, I think that's what I was playing around right here because I didn't want to just play right into Boseiju and then him be able to get right out of the position that he was in. I also didn't know that there was going to be another Blood Moon on the top of my deck from the Amulet, but getting mana screwed again and him not drawing that third land obviously helped me win this match. So he ends up not playing anything and passes his turn along. We do top deck a Raptor, but I think at this point I need to just get out Blood Moon. Get the damage, get Blood Moon out. He did not tap for green, which was just a great sign for us. He again didn't get his land, which is just killer. We go into Raptor mode, double Raptor mode, which just triggers the Amulet. Starting to get some damage out now. We play our second Blood Moon, and the second Blood Moon is just backbreaking, and he concedes. On to the final match of the tournament, round 6, against American Control. With the final match underway, we lost the dice roll again, but I did end up keeping this one land hand. It's definitely a little sketch, but being on the draw, I think we can make it work. We didn't obviously know what we were going to do, and hashtag never punished because we get our land off the top every time. Luckily, at this point, I'm pretty sure we're against Wizards Control or some sort of American Control. However they want to play it at this point. I really think what's best here is just try to get as much damage out as possible. I would normally seek the beast there. If we hit a bobble, it's looking pretty good, but we're just going to play an actual questing druid here because at worst, it's really not the bad. There's nothing bad about actually just playing the questing druid. He does flage out and is more worried about the questing druid, which, I mean, it's not the wrong decision. So we hit him for some damage. The flage was a little rough. He does end up putting a land down into a one ring, which, comment down below, like, I think one ring should be banned. I just don't think it leads to fun gameplay, but let me know what your thoughts are. We put out another amulet into a bobble. Unfortunately, it doesn't do any damage to him. We are going to get a lightning bolt next. We have the lava dart in the graveyard, so that my thoughts were we can do a ton of damage depending on what he tries to do here. He attempts to wipe our board with Wrath. At this point, I'm doing math. So the lightning bolt will deal 3. The lava darts will each deal 4. Well, the one in hand will do 4. The other one will do 3. I even do the galvanic discharge just to get some extra energy out, so then I can play whatever is going to be the top deck next. Which hitting that next bolt was just insane. Having double bolt won me the game, actually. Lane a dig land. I'll put a dig land down as well. Then throw out the other bolt. One ring. Could not find a counterspell, so we take game 1. Against Control, we have an interesting plan, especially when they're playing Flage. We want to put in at least 2 to 3 surgical extractions and some blood moons. So I took out the 3 mutagenics, 1 underworld breach, along with 2 galvanic discharges. I don't think they have very many creatures. There are some, but I don't think the discharges are that effective. I keep an interesting one-lander again. Probably not the smartest decision, but hashtag never punished. To draw the correct land, I was trying to do something a little cheeky here. I was hoping that he actually had some Scalding Tarns in hand. I wanted to make sure I hit a land, obviously, but I was hoping to try to like sneak in a little hit there. May not have been the correct decision, but I also wouldn't have drawn the land on my next turn. So, sneaky good decision, possibly. Not 100% sure on what the thoughts are there. He's holding up like he has Counterspell. I do play into Counterspell with my Channeler, and it does beef my other Channeler into Swiftspear. I know he has Flage in hand, so I know my Channeler's dead. Knowing what he's got in his hand, Slick Shot's probably the best option. He is going to draw a Digland, which isn't the best for us here, because that's just another card for him to get closer to Flage. Hitting us with the Discharge. I know next turn he should be able to play out his Flage, either playing something here or on his next turn doing something. But he kind of tricks me out here and plays the Mage, which is just a little interesting of a play. I wasn't ready for him to play that because I thought he would just want to get the Flage out. And I might have misplayed here and actually helped him get the Flage out. Actually, looking back after it, probably the better play would have been to put the Unstable Amulet out, because then he would have been one card short on being able to escape Flage here, which once he got Flage out, it was very difficult for me to win the game from that point. My thoughts here, my only way I can win is if he doesn't have Counterspell, any sort of counter magic, or any way to prevent me from killing him next turn. But alas, he plays a One Ring, which basically signifies that there's almost no way for me to win this game from this point. I do have another Slick Show. I sit here thinking and contemplating what I could possibly do. I actually end up playing both so I can have one as a blocker. But I already know the game's over from this point. He ends up killing one of them, and I just concede here. If I change it up for game 3, I actually take out a Surgical Extraction and put in a 4th Blood Moon since I'm on the play as opposed to the draw. Turn 1, I go Channeler into Bauble. Could have held the Bauble for the Slick Show. Decided not to. Throw the Channeler in the graveyard. See that he's got a Snapcaster on top, but I draw Blood Moon. That is a really good one, especially if I can draw that 3rd land. Useless if I can't, obviously. Hit the Arena of Glory. Such a good top deck. Swing in with the Slick Show. Is at this point he plays a Digland, which frightens me a little bit. I'm not sure what he has. I'm assuming it's Counterspell, but when I play the second Slick Shot, he doesn't do anything. Neither does he do anything to the Bauble trigger of it. So I swing in with each, see what the top card is. He doesn't do anything, so I just bolt him. Say, hey, kill something if you can. And he actually doesn't. He goes down to 3. Is able to kill 1 Slick Shot. Hoping that he doesn't have a Solitude in hand, but he didn't have one last turn. I thought about the Blood Moon, but the Breach was just too good not to play. And we win the match. And there's how we go 4-2. We were in 13th at this point, and we actually ended the tournament in 13th. There's a list of the top 8. You can take a good look. So close. Hopefully we can get them next time.